Can you well rested and you're ready for the week? Hello, good morning, Kenyans, and thank you for joining us here on the Morning Prime on this day of 29th July 2024. Can you believe it? Only some few days shy of a new month, and how time really flies, right? That's why Benjamin Franklin will remind you, right, that whatever you are supposed to do it with all gusto and honest. Thank you so much for today. We are, of course, going to be harking back to the week that has been, looking at the political tone and tenor that has been changing recently. Of course, people vacillating here and there regarding their position and standpoints as far as the political stand is concerned. And we're talking about Raila Odinga and ODM and how also that is threatening of course, the position or the party itself with the impending implosion. And as me as well, every finger is pointing every which way as far as the direction is concerned. We shall be joined momentarily by our panelists to discuss this and a raft of other issues, especially the legislators. This week will be a very important week as well, because everyone will be keeping their eyes peeled to see what will be happening at the National Assembly as far as the vetting is concerned. So that is what we're going to be also following doggedly as far as the week is concerned. So will the National Assembly have a sporting chance to redeem itself? We know how they've recently been, of course, voting just to pander to the whims of the political, of course, master of the day. And that also made them really get the ire of the public, especially with the Gen Z. All right, that will be on the table today, and a lot of other issues as well at the dailies. But for now, let's see how the weather will be. All right, let's see what is it. On the front page of the dailies today, Gachagua running out of options. That is what is on the front page of the Standard. And Ruto turns to usual strategy. That is what is on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. He has come in course for days after picking Joho to join his cabinet. And you can see them having a light moment there. Same old script. President Ruto is back to his usual strategy of touring regions he perceives will accord him a good reception after doling out political rewards and cabinet appointments, a script he has perfected since coming to power in 2022. The political tours are usually disguised as development visits, and you have a story on page 4 and 5 here of the Daily Nation today. You can see this telling picture of him, of course, with the unflappable smiles also of the one or the flunkies around him. Taita Taveta Governor Andrew Mwadime, President William Ruto, from Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, and Taita Taveta Woman Representative Lydia Hakika during a church service at St. Peter's Ngambwa ACK Church in Taita Taveta County yesterday. You can read the rest of the stories I've mentioned on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation today. Red flags in Adani JKIA deal mirror all it is 2018 concerns. We've not been here just for the first time. We've been here before. And it says questions being asked about the proposal to lease Jomo Kenyatta International Airport to an Indian firm mirror concerns the Auditor General flagged about a similar aborted deal involving Kenya Airways in 2018. And you have a story on page 7 of the Daily Nation today. Kenyan police battle Haitian gang. Kenyan police exchange fire with 400 Mawozo gang as they seek to deliberate parts of Gaudhier town near border with Dominican Republic. You have a story on page 2 of the publication today. Malkia strikers battle Brazil in opener. That story is on the back page of the Daily Nation today. Scramble to cash in on Gen Z WEF. Now we have over 20 applications for new reservations that have been made to the Office of Registrar of Political Parties with eyes on the 2027 polls. And you have that story on page 7. And of course, most of them have been slatted off or stoutly denied to be registered by the political parties registrar because they do not give a general outlook of course, inclusivity when it comes to political parties. Gen Z as a party cannot be registered as a youth party. And you can follow the story on page 7 of the Daily Nation today to get all the gritty details. MPs clash with senators of a conflict of interest bill. Remember, this was in the Senate where, of course, it is claimed that it was heavily mutilated. Now, the National Assembly says this particular bill has been adversely mutilated and it's not speaking in this favor of stamping out corruption here in the country. You can follow the story on page 6 of the Daily Nation today. Let's see what the star is all in for us. How CIA stopped U.S. Embassy bomb plot. It was led by Saleh Ali Saleh Nabhan, who had direct contact with Bin Laden, and Fazul Abdallah Mohammed, Osama Bin Laden, Isa, Osman Isa, Saleh Ali Saleh Laban. These are some of the faces that were behind the embassy bombing here of the United States that was in 1997. You can follow the story inside the publication today. It's silent pain for mothers raising children with autism. They require support. Learners in Naivasha drop out of school for fishing. Alama's civil servants failed to repay 7 billion shillings housing loans. That story is inside the Star today. And also national unity inside Ruto's tour to pacify demo hotspots after deal with Raila. You have a story on page 4 and 5 of today's publication of the Star. Let's see what the People Daily is holding for us. Integrity question. And it's all about the vetting, this week being a very important week for the cabinet nominees who will be vetted by the National Assembly. It will be no walk in the park for President Ruto's cabinet nominees after Crusaders for Good Governance file an avalanche of petitions challenging the suitability and track records of some of the candidates. And you have conduct of the leaders in their previous lives might return to haunt the CS nominees. Their faces are splashed here on the front page of the People Daily today. Experts, Nairobi staring at water crisis. This is what our experts are warning. And also, please help my daughter is dating a married man. Well, these are just gossips inside the People Daily as well. Why Mandera women are the mothers of nation. Why Mandera women are the mothers of the nation. County has the highest fertility rate with about 8 children per woman for the last 3 years. County has the highest fertility rate with about 8 children per woman for the last 3 years. You have a story on page 7. Of course, that is from the Kenya Demographic Health report there inside the People Daily today. Backlash over Last Supper parody. Christians across the world up in arms, feeling that the religion was mocked during the opening ceremony. And of course, this is in regard to the France Olympics and the opening ceremony, where we saw the Last Supper and people making some jests around it as well. You can follow the story on page 30 of the People Daily today. Msajili akataa chama cha Gen Z, as I've mentioned there before. That is the political party's registrar, who has not really, or has declined some of the proposed party registrations names there. Asema zaidi ya majina 10 yenye jina hilo la Gen Z yamewasilishwa kwake, lakini akayakataa kwani yanabagua kiumri. Right? It cannot just be for the youth as required by the Political Parties Act. You can follow the story inside Taifa Leo today. Alado ataka kurithi Wandai. ODM wapigania viti vilivyobaki wazi baada ya wenzao kuteuliwa kwa waziri. You have a story inside the publication today. Polisi wakomboa mji Haiti. You can follow the story inside the publication as well. Ruto ahidi makubwa Taita Taveta. Tutabaki waaminifu kwa ODM. Joho na wenzake wasema. You can follow the story inside Taifa Leo. Let's buckle down to some business as always. Kenya banks snoop on staff with artificial intelligence in war against fraud. That is what we have as a splash today. Lenders bet on tech to detect irregularities. Financial industry adopting new solutions to minimize losses. Commercial banks have deployed artificial intelligence technologies to spy on their staff in fresh efforts to combat fraud and theft propagated by internal actors. The sector's regulator has revealed that they have a story on page 2 of the publication today. Also, e-citizen services parastatals cash mop-up yield 129 billion shillings. E-citizen services parastatal cash mop-up yield, that is about 129 billion shillings. Revenue from non-tax streams such as fees on government services grew by more than half in the financial year that ended July, that is June 30th, 2024, on the back of increased digitalization and the mopping up of surplus funds in parastatals. India Farm eyes job cuts, new times for KAA staff in deal. India Farms eyes job cuts, new terms for KAA staff in deal. Kenya Airports Authority employees will have to renegotiate their contracts with the possibility of job losses to some should India's Adani Airport Holdings win its bid to run Jomo Kenyatta International Airport for 30 years. And if you read the publication elsewhere, you can see also the management or the acting managing director of Kenya Airports Authority right now has assured the staff that no jobs will be lost. But looking at this particular development here as well, it seems that is just hot air from his mouth. It seems with the new deal, some head will have to roll. That's the story that you want to follow there inside the publication today. Heads will roll inside Kenya Airports Authority with the Adani Farm now taking over to, or being leased to Adani Farm, that is KAF, for the next 30 years. And of course, we have senators who are raising special umbrage with this particular contract, how it was doled out, why it was a private tender or a closed tender, so to speak, and not open to the public. What are some of the meetings that actually transpired, and do we have any documents in that regard when you talk about also some of the statements that were raised, the deals that were made, how they were made, why were they given to this particular farm, why was it chosen or given preferential treatment? Those are stories that you want to follow inside the publication today. Treasury on the spot of a 2.6 billion shillings tax gift to e-bike. That story on page 2 of the publication today of the Business Daily. Let's see what we have in Uganda. Two shades of opinion. Two shades of opinion is a splash in the eye of a storm. Speaker of Parliament Anita Among, who's sanctioned on corruption charges by the US and British government yesterday, said she's a spotless leader targeted for fighting homosexuality. And you have a story on page 4 of the publication today. Innocent Me, July the 2nd, 2024, on corruption in Parliament. We cannot say that our members are corrupt. Even if some of our members have been arrested and they are in prison, there is a presumption of innocence. You cannot say somebody is a thief, nobody's corrupt, if that is what you want to hear. On July 28th, that was just, this is today actually, or yeah, that is yesterday, on corruption fight, she said, you move around trying to destroy the country and saying Anita must resign. Resign and go where? I'm still around. When you see the demonstrations that are in town, that is in Kampala, they are demonstrating because they are self-seekers. These people who don't want us to respect. These are people who don't want us to respect values for our country. This is what she said. Corrupt in foreign eyes. On April 30th, 2024, UK government sanctions Anita Among and 2 other ex-ministers on accusations of stealing from the poorest communities in Uganda. And May 30th, 2024, the US slaps travel and access freeze on 5 current and former Ugandan officials, including Among, the speaker, accused of involvement in significant corruption tied to her leadership on Uganda's parliament. And of course, she's been hanging by the fingernails, despite the fact that we have the Gen Zs in Uganda protesting as well for her resignation and stepping down because she's a poster child of corruption, the face of corruption in that country, and they've had none of it. This is what the Gen Zs in Uganda are calling it. They want her to resign, amongst other corrupt leaders in Uganda as well. Did Museveni's address on wealth creation miss the reality on the ground? That is what the panorama is also focusing on today inside the Daily Monitor. If you're waking up in Uganda, let's see what is happening in Tanzania, what new trade policy aims at. The government has come up with a revised trade policy that seeks to accommodate new developments such as regional trade agreements, technological advancement and climate change, among other local and global issues. We have a story on page 2 of The Citizen today, and why Bank of Tanzania is optimistic on dollar availability. Teachers shortage threatens education quality in Tanzania. And you can read the rest of the details there on page 2 of today's publication. Tanzania starts medal chase at Paris Olympics as well. They're in the running to get the medals. You have a story on page 20 of The Citizen. In Rwanda, our top 5 projects are poised to reshape Kigali is a splash today. More eco parks and sports facilities to promote healthy living in Kigali. That is on page 3 of the publication today. Rwanda ready to handle Mpox outbreak. Medics can be seen here during simulation drills on epidemic preparedness at King Faisal Hospital on October the 17th. That was in 2022, following the confirmation of 2 cases of Mpox, formerly known as monkeypox, in Rwanda. On Saturday, July 27th, an official with the Rwandan Biomedical Center, that is RBC, has said that the country is well prepared to handle a potential Mpox outbreak and advise residents to take precautions to avoid the spread of a viral infection. Of course, we just neighbor Rwanda here, so we're not really out of the woods as far as this Mpox is concerned as well. And we hope also the government is coming up with the mitigation measures to make sure that it is contained or prevented. That is the new times in Rwanda. The East African this week, Samia's political chess game. Ahead of the electioneering season, our Stana president is enforcing loyalty and efficiency among state officials. As seen in the latest reshuffles, you can follow the story on page 4 and 5 of the publication today. Fresh sanctions for armed groups in North Kivu. US singles out Congo River Alliance for fueling conflict. And Ethiopian not welcome here, says Asmara. Authorities accuse the airline of predatory practices. That story is on page 6 of the publication today, or this week of the East African. All right, this is what the latest edition of The Economist is holding. Can she win? And this is the presumptive presidential nominee of the Democrats in the U.S., the Vice President Kamala Harris. Can she win? That's the probing question. And that is what is on the front page of The Economist. The summer reading from 1843 magazine as well as inside. You can follow the story inside the publication. This is the latest. The Newsweek as well, not the Newsweek, but Time magazine. This is what it's focusing on. All right. No splash, but the picture is a splash itself. I can tell you. There we have Biden walking away and Kamala Harris coming in. This is the Time magazine, the latest publication, of course, from the international magazines there, news magazines. Right, those are your dailies. I shall show you what we have on the front page of the Newsweek, also on the front page of the Week, UK and US edition as well. But for now, let's see the faces that we have this morning and, of course, who will be taking us through the conversation today regarding how the week will pan out, also looking back at last week and how it was, just to see what is the political tone antenna in the country right now. The president is, as you can see from the dailies, going back to his old strategy. It seems, or it feels, that we are actually in the campaign mode with his town hall meetings in Taita Taveta or the coastal region yesterday, and also him being on the ground, making sure he's making tours to most of the counties. He was in Tharaka Nithi, now he's in the coastal region. We're eagerly waiting to see where he will be this week as well. But allow me to introduce our guest. We're holding court this morning with Wilson Sossion, who's a governance and policy analyst. Also, we are joined by Dr. James Chikal, who is a member of parliament from Seme. We're joined by Yusuf Hassan this morning, who is a member of parliament for Kamukunji. And also, we shall be joined by Geoffrey Ruku, who is a member of parliament for Mbeere North. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning.
Right, Wilson Sossion, I could see you cracking a smile. Right, I don't know why you're cracking a smile, but it seems you're a happy man this morning.
Well,
I don't know what you took for breakfast.
Well, you've described me as a governance and policy analyst.
Yes. Because I struggle now. What do I say? We thought with the latest development, the CSS was
maybe relevant to the show. I'm a teacher. That is it. And social justice crusader of many years. I think those would be better descriptions. But it's a good morning, Debal.
Good to see you.
Yes.
And thank you for joining us. So you had a lovely week?
Yeah, indeed, a very lovely week. Mm-hmm. And I think we're looking forward to another eventful week.
Indeed.
Yeah, and of course on the scene, as you've said, I think Nyikal have a job cut out to help the president ensure that a cabinet is in place. Then in the coming days, we'll have a working cabinet. The president will have a working cabinet.
Yes.
And we'll continue uniting the country and doing what he's doing. As you've said, you've seen the president who was in Meru and then Coast. He will be traveling everywhere in Kenya to work with Kenyans because he was elected by Kenyans. He was not elected by Kenyans to hide in State House, but he was elected by Kenyans to work for Kenyans as per his promise and the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza, which then automatically becomes government policy and is what is being implemented. And he said, I am working with every Kenyan, and including establishing a broad-based government. And we've seen more members of ODM brought in to the cabinet. The Treasury has gone to John Badi, Energy to Opio and I, and we've seen the deputy party leaders of ODM, both of them, getting to the cabinet. And that's a big step towards truly uniting the country. And I think the president, his spirit and desire to accommodate as many people to serve in building the country is indeed a very good step. It's a bold step that very few presidents globally can engage in such undertakings.
Right.
So we expect more as we move forward.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear from Nyikal. Watching you last week as well in the National Assembly, you seem to be very determined to get clarity as far as why some of the names that you know, the president had read out one of the same names that were presented in the National Assembly, right? And you can tell us how this week as well is bound to be. So you are actually putting them to the test. So the question of integrity will be very pivotal as far as the affairs are concerned. So what do you have up your collective sleeves?
Yes, morning Dibal. Pleasure to have me here again. Thanks a lot. I think, as you said, I'm actually surprised that that statement, everywhere I go, people are asking me about it, and I didn't think when I raised it, it didn't seem a major item in the flow of the House, but I was concerned. And why I was concerned is basically we are in a situation where the Gen Zs and the people at large have shown a lot of distrust or mistrust with the parliament, with the government, and they made some demands, and some have been acceded to in an effort to bring some peace around. And one of them was the withdrawal of the finance bill, which was, I think, is a good thing, because in any case it had problems, as we had indicated. And the other one, they were not satisfied with the composition of the cabinet. So the cabinet was then, the entire cabinet was dismissed. The word was dismissed, and now a new set had been brought in. And my concern was, what was read in the House was different from what had been pronounced by the president. And I was concerned that we are coming from a place of the issue of trust. And so what the public know was different from what was being presented to us. And as much as many of my colleagues thought that was not a big issue, the president has the right to change names anytime. But my issue was, what is at stake even when we are going on this week? Can we behave or do things in a way that actually generates trust amongst the people for Parliament and the House? And if the first thing is, the names are different, it may be small, but the signal it sends is big. That, how do we trust these people? They have started, they're giving us different names. What we know is what they're going to read for us. And if we were to continue to the end with that information, it would then appear at the end that the people who would be presented to the House, or people who would be vetted and passed or not passed, would be different from what the people were expecting. And so that was a concern to me as a matter of building trust. That was not good. And I think that's why probably so many people took. So I now realize that it is a small thing, but it's very, very important in building trust. But I noted that when the president was announcing the second list, he actually started by correcting that one, and he actually used the words that I want to correct, and there are some changes. To me, I think that was a good indication that let people know exactly what is happening. Because as we go into this week, the committee that is in charge of vetting will now start. And my view is that the big thing in this vetting is, are we in tandem with the feelings and the thinking of the people? Shall we show that we are compliant, or we listen to what the people want? And so in my personally, I would be very keen, and my ears would be out, what are the feelings of the people about the people we are picking. Already we have an issue of why were some people brought in and then they had been removed. And people, if you read, people are saying, if you're dismissed, there is the word dismissed means there was something amiss, and now why are you coming back? And I think even on this program last week, we were looking at part of the section which says if you are dismissed, you shouldn't come back. And we are going into details as to why. So I think we have a very a very, very important week. The fact that some people who are members of ODM have been appointed, have been nominated for possible vetting is also important. The fact that our party leader has acknowledged that they are there is also important. So the country, in my view, is going to look at this vetting as a very important step if you're going to change the mode of governance.
Right, thank you, Honorable Nyika. Let me just say from Yusuf Hassan has been missing in action, off the radar. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us and welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, and maybe we can just begin from the point of view before you even go for how your outlook will be on this week in the National Assembly previously. For all this that has been happening, you've been away for a while. I don't know what you've been, what have you perceived, what has been your perception, what has been your assessment?
Well, a lot has happened.
And, you did.
There's that famous Lenin's comment on politics of saying that a lot doesn't happen in decades, and a lot happens very quickly in a short time. So in our particular case, let me just actually correctly.
It says that a lot happens in a decade. A week happens in a decade?
No, he said there are decades where nothing happens.
There are decades where nothing happens.
Yes. And there are weeks where decades happen.
Yeah, that's correct.
So to a certain extent, that is what we have experienced in the last month. Our country has changed a lot. And to a certain extent, I must say that the president has done quite a lot in terms of backing down and accepting many of the demands of the young generation that had gone out into the streets. And now the focus is on Parliament. Because if you recall, this particular explosion started with the Parliament's decision to pass the finance bill, the unpopular finance bill. And once that happened, all hell broke, and we went into recess, and we've been out of action. We've not been able to perform our constitutional responsibilities because Parliament was in recess at a critical time, which should not have been the case in my humble judgment. But I would say that Article 152 now gives Parliament the authority to act as a counter-check and a balance to the president's power. And now that he's brought the cabinet list, his nominees to Parliament, we have a great opportunity as Parliament to undertake our responsibilities of oversighting and do the vetting provides us with a good opportunity. I would say that in the past, the public believes that Parliament has not taken its constitutional responsibilities seriously and have passed people who have not been deserving to serve as cabinet secretaries.
Yes.
And you see, the Constitution allows us as parliamentarians to protect the interests of the country and save us against unfit and incompetent and corrupt appointees, nominees. So I think this opportunity should not be lost as far as we're concerned. And the coming vetting exercise should be used to redeem the damaged image of Parliament, to salvage the reputation of Parliament, so that Parliament can regain the public confidence and the respect that it deserves, and be able to implement its constitutional responsibilities effectively. So that's what the Kenyan public are looking for. And I don't know whether Parliament would be able to meet that expectation that the public has.
Why not? Why not?
Well, I think that is for the public, but I think that that particular respect or that reputation of Parliament
we thought this is the
was
moment.
damaged.
Yeah, this is a moment to redeem yourself.
Indeed,
right?
indeed.
To
But
really show that
you know, Parliament consists of 340 something MPs, so it's a
49.
big body. Dr. Nyakala and myself cannot say that we speak for Parliament. We are just members of Parliament and we'll play our role.
I thought this would have been a moment of introspection and reflection, where you really stand, whether you want to really pander for and be a lapdog for the executive, or you really want to speak and stand for the people that actually sent you to the National Assembly or the Senate and speak on their behalf.
But
So,
I must say, Dabal, that after returning from recess, I didn't feel...
in a slight of change.
I didn't feel that there has been reflection, a serious reflection.
Okay.
I didn't think that there was a serious introspection and an acknowledgement of what has happened in our parliament if you look at the ruling party's members.
Yes.
It appeared to me as if for a second they had forgotten what has happened. So I think it is important for parliamentarians to properly reflect, honestly look into the heart of hearts of the members of parliament, and to see where we have been. We have almost been on the brink. What has happened, the seismic, the earth-shattering developments that have taken in our country in the last month are really very serious issues that we should reflect on. But I don't see that in Parliament. I feel that people have forgotten and they want to go back to things as usual. But we have moved on. Business cannot be as usual.
As usual, indeed.
Yes. We must embrace change.
Indeed.
And also the Parliament, members of the ruling party in Parliament appears not to be in tune with the President, because the President seems to have reflected and is calling and is saying we would do a lot of changes. But in Parliament, if you look at, for example, the Committee for Finance has returned back the budget of the First Lady, when in fact the President himself had announced publicly that he was going to remove that. When we're actually cutting down on basic social services, education, health, and water, we're not cutting down on these excessive expenditures that are completely unnecessary and could be financed by the Office of the President in the way he would like to. But apparently the budget for the First Lady has been returned back into the budget because people are going to lose their jobs. But people are losing their jobs in education. People are losing their jobs in health. These are more critical and more useful for the country than paying an individual who has got a whole collection of private staff members.
So the issue why we have the return of the office of the budget for the office of the First Lady is the fact that we will have some legal challenges with the employees on how maybe on the labor relations when it comes to employment and labor relations.
I'm not convinced by that argument at all.
That is an argument that has been fronted. That's
no, absolutely.
So that
it's a very
it's a very flimsy one.
Feeble, yes, and not very convincing. And given the environment in the country, given what has happened,
indeed,
it is going to be a point of contention unnecessarily. We could move forward and do more other important things in order to resolve our more critical issues.
All right, and of course we look forward because when we saw you during the ambassador's nominees vetting as well, you are taking no prisoners. We expect that will go on the same vein as with the cabinet, with the cabinet nominees as well.
But everyone has his job cut for himself. Everyone has a job to do. The President has a job to do. He was elected by the Kenyan people and he's responding in the best ways he could. I'm not saying that he's right or wrong. I'm just saying that he's doing his job. He's appeasing the country. He's going out talking to people. We are parliamentarians. Our job is to oversight the system. Our job is to shield the Kenyan public from any excesses or problems from the presidency or from the executive. And if we're not going to do that job on in the chamber and in the committees effectively, then we are failing in our particular case. It doesn't matter what political party you come from. At the end of the day, you're a member of parliament representing an important constituency of the Kenyan population. And so it's our responsibility to effectively protect our job, to work for the Kenyan people, and to make sure that, in fact, we get the best outcome in terms of budget, in terms of nomination. For example, the president is under pressure to nominate political associates. The president is under pressure to form alliances that will protect his position. That is for him. What is the job of parliamentarians? I think a lot of parliamentarians seem to be cheerleaders. They seem to be interested in rubber stamping whatever comes from the executive. And that's why we are where we are at the moment. You know, we have lost our ability to stand up for the Constitution. And we have a wonderful Constitution that gives us a lot of power to use that Constitution effectively to be the check and balance in the system, to make sure that we do our job well and we work for our country, not for a political party or for a leader.
Indeed, indeed. All right, let's just get a feel and flavor of how also it went down yesterday, where the president was at the coast, where President William Ruto has been asked to seek forgiveness for the recent bloodshed in the country, and that which occurred under the watch of his predecessors. Speaking during a church service in Bura, Taita Taveta County, Stephen Norman Satale of the Mwatate ACK Archdiocese said the fight for the position by selfish leaders have always left innocent Kenyans dead, and that Ruto must repent on behalf of his government and previous governments. Hezron Kimari has more.
On the final day of his 4-day development tour of the Coast region, President William Ruto made way to Taita Taveta County for a church service. He landed at ACK St. Peter's Bura, and here the clergy did not miss their words. In his preachings, Archdeacon Stephen Norman Satale had a message for the head of state.
Daudi alienda katika chumba cha maombi wakati utawala wake ulikuwa na msukosuko. Ukifika pale State House, wakati unatubu dhambi za Wakenya, kando yako umuone Jomo Kenyatta. Tubu kwa niaba ya mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Kando yako umuone mzee Moi. Tubu kwa niaba ya mzee Moi. Kando yako umuone mzee Kibaki. Tubu kwa niaba ya mzee Kibaki. Kando yako umuone rafiki yako Uhuru. Tubu kwa niaba ya Uhuru. Alafu usimame useme mimi mwenyewe maovu haya nimeyashiriki.
According to the ACK Archdeacon, the current status of the nation is because of the bloodshed witnessed during every election. He asked President Ruto to seek forgiveness for his atrocities and those of his predecessors to save the country.
Rais wetu wa kwanza kuingia katika mamlaka, mzee Jomo Kenyatta, sealing na rubber stamp ya kudhibitisha utawala wake, ni damu ambayo ilimwagwa na Wakenya wakati huo. Kaja utawala wa Moi. Moi kuwa katika position kwa 24 years. Rubber stamp ya leadership yake kukaa. Shedding of the blood 1982 na 1997. Shedding of the blood 2007, 2008. Huru kukaa kwa utawala 2013 tukashed blood.
Taking to the podium, the president for another time expressed confidence in his new cabinet, saying it has face of the nation. Ruto also defended leaders who voted for the controversial Finance Bill 2024 that has since been withdrawn.
Sisi ni nchi ya demokrasia, na katika demokrasia ile, demokrasia pia iko na nafasi ya kuweka national interest above partisan political party and regional politics. Pia tunaweza kuungana tuweze kulenga yale mambo ambayo yatabadilisha taifa letu la Kenya. Ndio sababu mimi nimesema naunda serikali ama baraza la mawaziri yenye italeta jamii zote za Kenya pamoja. Italeta sehemu zote za Kenya pamoja. Itatuweka sote pamoja. Na nataka niwaulize viongozi wote, sisi kama viongozi, kuna wakati wa kuwa mwanasiasa na kuna wakati wa kuwa kiongozi. Wakati wa kuwa kiongozi ni kuamua yale mambo hata kama ni magumu, lakini yanafaidi watu wako.
Na basi sisi tunakutakia heri njema. Hata unapopanga serikali, tunataka kukuambia Rais, tunakuunga mkono 100% katika zile mpangilio ambazo unafanya kuhakikisha ya kwamba umeweka Kenya pamoja. Kwa sababu usipopanga Kenya yetu, hatutakuwa na Kenya ya kujivunia, hatutakuwa na Taita Taveta ya kusema tunajivunia na amani.
Na kama rais atakuja siku moja hivi na yote haya yafanyike, yeye tukikaa hapo sote tuingize miguu hapo, kutakuwaje? Kwa hivyo ninashukuru, hata nisikia kwamba mchungaji akisema mimi na dada tulirisk. Hatukurisk. Tulikuwa tunatoa uamuzi ule ambao ni wa kweli wa kupeleka nchi mbele.
The sentiments comes at a time when the country is witnessing mixed reactions from different walks of life over the performance of the government and the President Ruto's new look cabinet. Hezron Kimari, KTN News, Mwatate.
Deputy President Gachagua has asked Kenyans to support President William Ruto's new look cabinet, saying it is good for the country. Speaking during a church service in Nyandarua, Gachagua also welcomed to government the 4 ODM leaders nominated to cabinet by President William Ruto. Clement Pasolo has more.
A day after President William Ruto asked Gen Z youth to support his cabinet nominees, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua also issued the same call to Kenyans. Gachagua has once again pledged his support for the president, stating that he welcomes the move by the president to bring on board the opposition.
Hata hii maminista wameteuliwa, sisi hatuna shida, kwa sababu sisi katika eneo hili bado poteza chochote. Rebecca Miano amerudishiwa yake. Murang'a tumepata, Kirinyaga tumepata, Kiambu tumepata, Embu tumepata, Meru tumepata, Nakuru tumepata. Kuna shida. Wale Tharaka Nithi tumepata.
Speaking after church service at St. Stephen's Catholic in Nyandarua, the DP said as a principal assistant to the head of state, he will support all decisions that stand to benefit Kenyans. He also asked Kenyans to support the president in his quest to realize the Kenya Kwanza's bottom-up economic transformation agenda.
Sasa hao wengine wakuja tufanye kazi. Kwa sababu mimi kama deputy president, kazi yangu ni kumsaidia rais na kuwa mwaminifu kwake na kumheshimu. Ili ameamua, mimi nafuata kwa sababu mimi ni msaidizi wake. Na siwezi bishana na yeye. Kwa hivyo yale wote amefanya, sisi tumekubali. Yangu nimetetea na imefanyika. Mimi nimesema niangaliliwe hii, imeangaliwa. Sisi tunaendelea. Kwa hivyo hakuna shida. Na sisi tunaendelea kuwa waangalifu.
In the same breath, a section of Kenya Kwanza leaders from Rift Valley have supported the move to nominate ODM leaders to the cabinet. According to the leaders, led by Uasin Gishu Senator Jackson Mandago, the inclusion of the 4 ODM party leaders in the cabinet is the right way to ensure the country remains united.
For avoidance of doubt, the decision by the President of Kenya, President William Ruto, the 5th president of this republic, to establish a broad-based government that has brought members of ODM into government. It is the right decision made at the right time to stabilize this country.
Tunataka kushukuru ile uhusiano yenye tumeunda sasa yenye ni behaves like a government of national unity. This is to make this country move forward. Kwa sababu sasa tumepata hawa marafiki wote. Jukumu yetu kama viongozi sasa tuhakikishe kwamba wale marafiki zetu wote ambao tuko ndani tuchunge, tukuwe na marafiki wetu wote kutoka kila pahali Kenya hii.
The president has now made 20 nominations to the cabinet. The CS nominees will be vetted from August 1st to August 4th. Clement Masombo, KTN News.
Now, a section of leaders from Western Kenya have termed the nomination of former Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya to the cabinet as a political masterstroke for President William Ruto. ahead of the 2027 general elections. Led by Lurambi MP Titus Hamalwa, or Hamala I should say, and UDA Secretary General Cleopas Malala, the leaders say Oparanya's experience is a plus to Ruto in terms of service delivery and politics. Oparanya was nominated to the cabinet to steer the Ministry of Cooperatives and Micro and Small Enterprises in President Ruto's refurbished cabinet.
We support all the positions that the president has offered to the people of Mulembe, and we thank the president for that. We want to ask those leaders now who hold offices in trust now to come down and listen to the people. Tunaomba Musalia, wewe Musalia, Wetangula, Oparanya, sasa mrudi chini tusikie wananchi wanataka nini.
Right, and talking of coming down, it seems also Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka is not coming down, and he has asked Wiper MPs to reject the 4 ODM party leaders nominated to President William Ruto's cabinet during voting in Parliament. Speaking during a church service in his home county, Kitui, Kalonzo questioned the nominations of the 4 and poking holes in their moral and ethical capacities. According to Kalonzo, there was no such thing as government of national unity. He was addressing congregants at the Full Gospel Church, Kwiso, Mwingi North, Kitui County.
Wanawaipa pigeni no. Namesikia Mheshimiwa Irene akisema no. Sasa ODM wamewekewa mtego mkali sana. Kama watapiga ndio kuwaidhinisha hawa, basi Kenya itaamini kumbe mlikuwa mnatudanganya kwamba wameenda kivyao. Because these are leaders of ODM, 2 deputy leaders, hata minority leader mwenyewe kwa bunge ambaye tulimpa mamlaka hayo. At least I should have been consulted as a leader in our coalition. I didn't know. Minority mwenyewe akaenda. Chairman wa ODM mwenyewe akaenda.
Tulikuwa wengi sana wazimio, and by the time things are serious in politics, His Excellency, men are going to run away. And the few that we are going to remain with are the ones that we are going to take over the leadership and the government of this country. Mimi kama mbunge wa Wiper, ninangojea tu hiyo majina iletwe bungeni ya hiyo nomination ya CS.
Now, the next 14 days will be an acid test for the 13th Parliament and more so the National Assembly over its independence as they vet and approve or reject the 20 nominees for the positions of the position of cabinet secretaries presented by President William Ruto. Will they rise to the occasion and redeem themselves, given that majority of Kenyans have already raised their reservations against some of the nominees due to integrity questions? That's a probing question. And our senior political affairs reporter, Chris Thairo, paints a picture of a house divided on whether to represent the people who sent them to the august house or serve their personal interest at the behest of the executive.
June 25th this year will go down in the annals of Kenya's history as the day young protesters or Gen Zs overpowered the police and managed to access one of the country's guarded facilities, the parliament, protesting against the action by MPs to approve the controversial finance bill. A month since then, the 349 legislators have a chance to redeem themselves and prove that they are not just a rubber stamp of the executive, but a representation of the people. This week, they will be expected to vet and approve the 20 cabinet nominees forwarded to them by the president. Already, Kenyans have raised their reservations against some of the nominees.
I oppose the game of recycling the musical chairs. Those who have been tested and failed should not belong and come to the government to join the government that is bound to fail. In fact, it was economic sabotage, not a political sabotage.
For those who are the previous government, you know, the president sacked them, he dismissed them through a Kenya Gazette. So I will say that after gazetting them, that he has dismissed them, they could have gone, all of them.
According to some of the Kenyans, the president would not have recycled some of the cabinet nominees given their past history in cabinet.
Should any of our members opt to join the proposed Kenya Kwanza-led broad-based government of national unity, we shall not be party to that decision. They will actually only be joining in their individual capacities, not on behalf of Azimio.
Tutasimama na wananchi, tutasimama na hawa vijana wetu Gen Z kutetea wa Kenya. Wenzetu ambao wameamua kujiunga na serikali, wao ni uamuzi wao wa kibinafsi.
The opposition has also received their fair share of criticism for accepting to join the government instead of playing their role of oversight.
Afadhali kwetu Sekuru pande hii. Niwe na roho safi, because I can't. My conscience will not allow me. For the love of this nation, we will stand. Hata William Ruto anajua Kalonzo atakuwa mpinzani wake. Na tutaanguka nao.
The vetting of the 20 cabinet nominees is expected to start Thursday and end on Sunday before they are either approved or rejected by the whole House on Tuesday next week. The House is also expected to present names of individuals who will serve in the IEBC Select Panel to the President for approval this week. Now, it is exactly a month since protesters, commonly referred to as Gen Zs, stormed Parliament in protest of the controversial finance bill. And this week, members of the National Assembly have an opportunity to redeem themselves when they start vetting the 20 nominees presented by President William Ruto to join his cabinet. Will they rise to the occasion? Noting that some Kenyans have already raised their reservations against that list. Krista Ero, KTN News at Parliament Buildings in Nairobi.
All right, even as we take a short break right now, well, I can explain. You can see there aboard the wheelbarrow is the oranges, and this is such an Herculean task to try and balance this particular act as it is. Questions have been raised regarding the credibility of some of the legislators there, like Wycliffe Oparanya. We know there was a case that is still pending, and we know one of his requirements is to be, of course, cleared by the EACC, and he has been in the radar of the EACC so far, where the DPP also concurred with some of the queries that were raised regarding Oparanya, conflict of interest, abuse of office, and also money laundering. This is some of the cases that are actually before him when he was the governor of Kakamega. Hassan Joho as well, the nominee for the Ministry, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs docket, is also facing challenges after two activists filed petitions with the vetting committee, citing cases where he's being investigated over graft-related matters. And it continues apace with some of the legislators as well, and we'll see how that will really pan out. I can explain, and this is what the president is trying to do right now, going through the country to explain why or stand for these nominees as well. And you can see, this is what also Ozone has drawn today. This is a mukate, the nusu mukate there, or the full mukate. People are taking bites from either side. And we can see walking away is Kalonzo Musyoka. And in the shadows also, we have Daniel Torotich, Arab Moi, Mwai Kibaki, Uhuru Kenyatta as well. These are looming figures in the shadows there, right? And it seems this mukate, a piece is not being given to Gachagua, if you may interpret that. Can you see? All right. We have the president, that is William Ruto, is actually taking a full bite of it. But looking on is the deputy president. What do you normally call this? He was feeling jealous as what? Kimnado. Anasikia Kimnado, as they say in the local parlance there. And we have also Stano inside today, inside the People Daily today. What happened to my shares? And you can see, well, the bread is being sliced there. That's the question he's asking. Of course, you've heard that he's pacified, he's okay. He said, okay, in Nyandarua, something has been given, and these other counties within the Mount Kenya region has been represented. So the shares of the deputy president also are there as well. This is what Stano has actually drawn inside the People Daily. We have Bill Okero, the former senator, who's asking a very poignant question. And Ori is actually given a statement. He's saying in his tweet, I have never seen a president go around the country urging Kenyans to support his cabinet nominees. Unprecedented, unnecessary. Only parliament can endorse or reject them. Wahenga wanasema, kizuri chajiuza, kibaya chajitembeza. Right, let me try and scroll it up so they can see. Wahenga wanasema